Ambassador Valari stood at the edge of her starship's ramp, her violet eyes scanning the thick jungle of Casternine. The air was hot, damp, and heavy, with the scent of alien plants. Behind her, Serectal guards in silver armor waited silently, their weapons ready. Valari took a deep breath. She had visited many planets, met dangerous leaders, and negotiated peace during times of war. But this mission felt different. This place held a darkness that even she could not explain. Casternine was a name whispered in fear across the galaxy. Long ago, an entire battle fleet had vanished, here destroyed by something ancient and monstrous. And records called it the Dread Beast, a creature born of death and shadow. No one had seen it and lived. Her people had declared this moon forbidden, left it alone for centuries. But recently, energy signals had been detected. Strong, strange ones. Someone or something had awakened here. Valari's ship landed with great care. She had been chosen to investigate, not only because of her diplomatic skills, but also because she did not fear easily. At least that's what she believed. As she stepped into the jungle, her boots sank slightly into the soft moss below. The trees were tall, twisted, and seemed to whisper in the wind. Her translator couldn't explain the sounds, but Valari felt like she was being watched. Every step forward felt like walking into a story that had no ending. Her team set up base near a waterfall. The sound of rushing water helped calm her nerves. They scanned the area, but nothing appeared, no animals. No movements, only silence. The jungle was alive, yet so still. That night, Valari sat beside the fire, thinking of the old legends. Her mother used to tell her bedtime stories about the Dread Beast. It's not just a monster, her mother had said. It's the wrath of nature itself, untamed, unbroken. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed in the darkness. A low growl. Deep, powerful. Not a machine, not a trick. Her guards froze, weapons raised. Valari stood slowly, her heart pounding. Something was out there. Something real. She saw glowing eyes in the distance, huge, burning like fire. Then they vanished. Her guards wanted to leave. Ambassador, it's too dangerous, one whispered. But Valari shook her head. No, we came to find the truth. And the truth has just found us. Inside, she felt fear growing, but also something else's strange pull. Curiosity, wonder, the Dread Beast. Was not supposed to exist. If it did, then the galaxy had been wrong all this time. What else had they misunderstood? She looked at the jungle again. This planet isn't empty, she said softly. Something is living here, watching us, waiting. And far away, hidden, behind thick vines and shadows, a figure stood still. Not the creature, a human. It's tall, quiet, with eyes just as sharp as the beast beside him. The galaxy thought Casternine was a dead world. But Valari was about to discover it held a secret that would shake everything she believed. The morning sun rose slowly over the jungle of Casternine, casting golden light across the thick trees and fog. Ambassador Valari stood near the waterfall, her mind heavy with thoughts from the night before. The glowing eyes, the deep growl, the silence of the jungle, none of it made sense. She had traveled across galaxies, met strange life forms, and faced warlords, but nothing had felt as frightening or as real as what she had felt here. Her guards were tense. They scanned the area again and again, but there was no sign of movement. No animals, no birds, even the insects were quiet. One of the guards, a young warrior named Soren, called out, "Ambassador, you need to see this." Valari followed him through thick vines and trees until they reached a patch of ground covered in deep claw marks. The soil was torn apart. The tracks were massive, too large to belong to any known species. Valari bent down to touch them. Grooves were fresh. "This isn't a natural predator," she said quietly. This is something intelligent." Nearby, another soldier discovered trees that had been snapped, not broken randomly, but shaped into patterns. Branches tied with vines, stones placed in circles. It was not the work of a wild beast. Wow, 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 why's heart began to race. The stories of the dread beast told of destruction and chaos. But this felt different, organized, calm. Could a monster create such order? That night, they set up motion sensors and drones around the camp. The jungle was still silent, but the feeling of being watched returned. As the stars appeared in the sky, Valari stood at the edge of the camp, staring into the darkness. Thoughts were not just of fear, but of wonder. What kind of creature hides in shadows yet does not attack? Why didn't it harm them last night? Then, without warning, alarms began to beep. One of the drones had gone offline, then another. Within seconds, all drones lost connection. Positions, shouted Soren, raising his weapon. Valari held up a hand. Wait, she listened carefully. Leaves rustled. A branch snapped. Shadow moved near the tree stall. Fast, powerful. But it did not come closer. Then, for a moment, Valari saw it, two glowing red eyes and a shape standing beside it. Her breath caught. It wasn't just the dread beast, a human was with it. She stepped forward, stunned. Impossible, she whispered. Shadow turned and vanished back into the forest. Her guards whispered nervously, some begging her to leave the planet at once. But Valari stood still, her eyes wide with shock. This wasn't just a dangerous place. It was a place of secrets. And one of those secrets had the face of a human. She sat near the fire later that night, thinking about what she saw. If that was truly a human beside the dread beast, then everything the galaxy believed was wrong. The creature was not a wild killer. It was being led. Or followed Ver, where I felt something new in her heart, something rare. Not just fear, not just curiosity, but hope. A small spark that whispered, what if the galaxy's most feared creature was not the real danger? What if the real surprise was the human? The next morning, the jungle was quieter than ever. Not a single sound came from the trees. Even the wind seemed afraid to move. Ambassador Valari stood near the edge of the camp, staring into the green shadows. Her mind kept repeating the same image, the glowing eyes of the beast, and beside it, the shape of a man. A human. She couldn't believe what she had seen. The dread beast, the most feared creature in the galaxy, walking side by side with a human. It went against everything she had ever learned. Her people believed the dread beast could never be controlled. But then who was that man, and how was he still alive? Before the sun had fully risen, one of the guards called out, Ambassador, someone is coming. Everyone turned quickly. Weapons were raised. Tension filled the air like a storm. From the jungle, a tall figure stepped into the light. He was a man strong, quiet, with messy brown hair and tired eyes. He wore torn clothes made from animal skin and metal parts. His face was rough, like someone who had survived more than just time. Behind him, the trees parted slowly, and then it appeared. The dread beast. It was massive. Its black scales shined. In the morning light, its eyes glowed red like fire. Its claws were sharp and deadly, but it did not growl. It did not attack. It simply stood next to the human, like a loyal companion. The guards pointed their weapons, ready to fire. But Valari raised her hand. No, she said firmly. Stand down. The man looked at her, calm and fearless. I thought I smelled perfume and politics, he said with a half-smile. Valera's eyes widened. You're human, Commander. Elias Cade. He nodded. Terran military. Or, I was, once. Valari stepped forward slowly. She felt her heart pounding. You were reported dead, crashed here years ago during a secret mission. No one thought you survived. Elias nodded. I did. Barely. She glanced at the dread beast, stood still, breathing slowly. The ground shook with every breath. And that? How is it not attacking? He looked at the creature with calm eyes. Because I didn't fight it. I watched. I listened. I learned it's not a monster. It's intelligent. It doesn't want war. It just wants to be understood. Valari was speechless. A human had survived on the deadliest planet in the galaxy. It's not only that, he had formed a bond with the most dangerous creature known to any species. This was beyond logic. Beyond belief. One of the guards whispered. It must be a trick. No one can tame that thing. Elias heard him. I didn't tame it, he said softly. I earned its trust. There's a difference. Valari looked into his eyes. She saw no madness there, only truth. He wasn't lying. Somehow, this man had built a connection with a beast the galaxy feared. Why didn't it kill you? She asked, her voice almost a whisper. He looked up at the jungle, then back at her. Because I treated it like a living being, not a monster. I showed it respect. I gave it time. I didn't try to control it. That's what made the difference. Valari felt a strange warmth in her chest. Not just wonder, but admiration. This human, lost and forgotten by his own people, had done what no scientist, no soldier, no empire ever could. He had made peace with a nightmare. She looked at Elias one more time. You're not just a survivor, are you? He smiled gently. No, Ambassador, I'm a reminder. A reminder of what? That sometimes the most powerful thing in the galaxy is understanding. Valari sat on a stone near the edge of the river, her eyes still locked on Elias and the dread beast. The creature stood behind him like a silent mountain, its eyes slowly scanning the area. The guards still kept their distance, hands ready on their weapons, but Elias didn't seem afraid. In fact, he looked peaceful. After some silence, Valari asked, How did this happen, Elias? How did you survive? And how did that creature become your companion? Elias took a deep breath, then sat across from her. The dread beast lay down behind him, its massive body half hidden in the thick grass. It started with pain. He said softly, My ship crashed here during a secret mission. I was the only one who lived. I broke my leg, lost my gear, and had no communication. I crawled for days through the jungle with nothing but a knife. Valari listened quietly. She saw no pride in his voice, only memories heavy with emotion. On the third night, he continued, I heard it, the growl. It stood above me in the dark, ready to kill. No, I didn't run. I couldn't. I just looked at it and said, Do what you must. I thought it was the end, but it didn't kill you? Valari asked, her voice low. Elias shook his head no. It watched me. Then it walked away. He explained how the beast began to follow him, not closely, but always nearby. For weeks, Elias moved through the jungle, finding water, avoiding deadly plants, building shelter. And always, the creature watched, not hunting him, but studying him. One day, he said, I left food on a rock. Not for it. It's for anyone. Anything. And the next morning, the food was gone. But nearby there was a strange gift, a stone, cleaned and polished. That's when I knew it was trying to understand me too. Valari felt her throat tighten. This was not a story of power. It was a story of patience, of two lost beings learning to trust one another in a world full of danger. I spoke too. It every night, Elias said. It's told it about my home, my family, my planet. I didn't know if it understood, but it never left. One time, I was attacked by another beast, something smaller but fast. I thought I would die, but it came. Dread beast. It crushed the predator with one blow, and it stood over me until I could move again. He paused and looked at Velar with deep, honest eyes. That was the moment it chose me. Velar whispered, You tamed the untamable. Tss, Elias said firmly. That's what people get wrong. I didn't tame it. I gave it a choice. It chose to walk beside me. That's more powerful than any chain or cage. She looked at the dread beast again. It wasn't just a monster. It was a guardian, a friend, a soul misunderstood by the galaxy. Why didn't you try to leave? She asked. He smiled gently. At first I wanted to, but then I realized this place was my second chance, not just to survive, but to become something better. to build something that had never been done before, a bond between fear and trust. Valari felt something shift in her heart. All her training, all her knowledge, had told her this creature was a killer. But the truth was standing before her, quiet and calm. A human and a beast, both alone until they found each other. She whispered, "Maybe the galaxy isn't as wise as it thinks." Elias looked up at the stars beginning to shine above. Maybe it's time someone showed it. The truth. The night on Castor 9 was calm, but the air felt heavy. The jungle, the stars, even the rivers seemed to hold their breath. Ambassador Valari sat beside Elias, watching the fire flicker between them. The dread beast rested nearby, its body curled like a great shadow under the moonlight. It was strange how peaceful this place now felt. She no longer feared the creature. In fact, she had begun to feel safe in its presence. But far above the jungle, in the orbiting Ceratol cruiser, a secret message had arrived. It was from the High Command: capture the human, eliminate the beast, take control of Castor 9. Soren, her lead guard, read the message in silence. He glanced at the fire below, then back at the screen. "He's dangerous," he whispered to himself. "We must follow orders." That same night, while Valari and Elias talked about their worlds, Storin and 2 other soldiers prepared their weapons in the dark. They moved slowly, carefully, hiding their plans even from the other guards. They believed they were doing the right thing. After all, no empire would ever allow a human to control a monster like that. Valari didn't know what was coming. Sat with Elias, listening as he spoke about Earth's forests and blue skies. For the first time in years, she laughed. Not as an ambassador, not as a leader, but as a person. Then came the explosion. A bright flash tore through the trees. Smoke rose. Screams echoed from the guards. Blaster fire lit up the dark. The dread beast roared, rising to its feet with eyes burning like fire. Valari was thrown to the ground, her ears ringing. She saw soldiers shooting toward the shadows toward Elias. "No," she screamed. Elias rolled behind a rock, not shooting back. "I didn't come here to fight." The dread beast charged forward, smashing equipment, knocking soldiers aside like toys, but it didn't kill. It's only protected. Valari stood, heart pounding, and ran into the crossfire. "Stop this now," she cried. Soren stepped forward, aiming his weapon. "He's a threat, Ambassador. That thing must be destroyed before it destroys us." "He hasn't harmed anyone," Valari shouted. "He's saved lives." "The orders are clear," Soren said coldly. Valari's eyes filled with tears. She had trusted her team, her leaders, her empire. But now she saw their fear, their need for control. They couldn't accept peace with a creature they didn't understand. They chose to destroy it. The dread beast stood between Elias and the soldiers, growling, its muscles tensed, but its eyes held sadness. It didn't want war. Elias placed a hand on its side. "Easy, old friend. We're not going back to that life." Valari stepped between them and the soldiers, raising her arms. "I will not let you harm them." Soren hesitated, anger and confusion in his eyes. But Valari's voice was strong. "This mission is over. The danger we feared does not exist. The only monsters here are the ones who cannot see the truth." Slowly, the guards lowered their weapons. The fire burned low as silence returned to the jungle. Trees stood still. Stars shined softly above. Valari turned to Elias. "I'm sorry," she said. "This should never have happened." He nodded. "Now you understand, it's not the beast they fear. It's the bond between us." She looked at the dread beast. Its eyes met hers, and in that moment, she knew it felt everything. Pain, loyalty, trust. Valari had come here to find a threat. Instead, she had found a story of survival, friendship, and strength. But not everyone in the galaxy would understand that. Not yet. The camp was quiet again, but it was not the same. The broken drones, damaged tents, and the heavy silence showed what had happened. Valari stood near the river, her heart full of pain. She had trusted her people, trusted her command. But now, she had seen the truth. Her own empire had become blinded by fear. Elias sat near the fire. gently placing leaves on a cut on the dread beast's leg. The creature didn't move. It trusted him completely. Valari watched in silence. The way Elias spoke to it, the way the beast listened it, was more than a bond. It was a friendship that words couldn't explain. She slowly walked toward him. "Is it hurt badly?" she asked. Elias looked up, giving a small nod. "Scratch, it's had worse." Valari sat beside him. The fire's light danced across their faces. "I received a second message," she said quietly, "from High Command. They want me to return with proof. They still believe you're a threat." Elias smiled bitterly. "Of course they do. I've seen it before. When someone doesn't fit the rules, the leaders call it danger. It's easier than trying to understand." She looked down. "They want me to lie. Say the beast was destroyed. Say you're gone." Elias raised an eyebrow. "And what will? You do?" That question sat heavy in her chest. She thought of her position, her duty, her name and rank. She had always been loyal, always followed orders. But now she had seen something different, something powerful and true. Elias had survived not through violence, but through kindness. He had shown the galaxy's deadliest creature love and respect, and in return the creature had given him its heart. "I don't know," Valari whispered. "If I tell them the truth, they'll come, with warships, with bombs. They'll destroy everything, the beast, this world." Elias nodded. "Then you have a choice, Ambassador. You can protect the lie, or protect what's real." Valari stared into the fire. Her entire life, she had been taught that emotions made a leader weak. But right now, her heart felt stronger than her orders. "I never believed humans could be so gentle," she said honestly. "Our people saw you as violent, wild, unpredictable. And now?" Elias asked. "Now I see," she replied, "that you have something many species have lost hope. Even in darkness, you still believe there's a better way." Elias didn't reply. Instead, he handed her a small piece of metal. It was part of his broken communicator. "Take it. Tell them what they want to hear. That you found nothing. No human, no beast. Just a dead jungle." She looked at the metal in her hand. It felt cold, but the meaning behind it was warm. "You're letting me protect you?" she asked softly. "I'm trusting you," he said, "just like the beast trusted me." Tears filled her eyes. For the first time in years, she felt truly human. Not an ambassador, not a soldier, just someone trying to do the right thing. The dread beast lowered its head near her. Its eyes, full of power, looked into hers. She slowly reached out and touched its skin. It was rough, warm, alive. "I'll tell them what they want to hear," she said. "But one day, they will know. They will know what truly happened here." Elias smiled gently. "And maybe then, the galaxy will be ready." Valari looked up at the stars. So many lights, so many lies. But here on this quiet jungle moon, she had found something real. She had made her choice. The sun rose gently over Casternine, painting the sky with soft orange and gold. The jungle, once feared and forgotten, looked calm and full of life. Birds returned to the trees, and strange flowers opened their petals to the light. The terrible planet was no longer silent. It was healing. Ambassador Valari stood at the top of a green hill, her eyes watching her ship as it prepared to take off. Her decision was made. She had recorded a message for the Seractol High Command, stating clearly that Casternine held no living danger. No human, no beast, only the peaceful silence of nature. It was a lie. But it was the most important truth she had ever spoken. Elias stood beside her, wearing his repaired military jacket patched together with vines and leather. His eyes were calm, but there was sadness too. He had grown close to Valari, not just as an alien, but as a person who had seen his pain and believed in his peace. "You're really going?" Elias asked quietly. Valari nodded. "I must. If I stay, they'll send more ships. More questions, more destruction. But I'll protect this place. From the outside." Elias looked at the dread beast, who sat behind them like a silent guardian. It raised its great head as if it understood every word. Valari turned to the creature, then stepped forward. Slow hands, she placed her palm on its chest. Thank you, she whispered. Not just for saving him, but for showing me who we truly are when we let go of fear. The beast closed its eyes for a moment, like it was saying goodbye. Valari stepped back and looked at Elias. You're not alone anymore. I'll keep your secret. One day, I want the galaxy to know. Not about the creature, but about the man who saw its soul. Elias smiled softly. Maybe that day will come, maybe not. But you've already changed something. She gave him a small, sad smile. You've changed me. The ship engines roared behind her. She turned one last time to the jungle, to the hill, to the human and the beast that had formed an impossible bond. Then she walked toward her ship and disappeared into the sky. Months passed on her homeworld. Valari began quiet talks with trusted Terran leaders. Not war generals, but thinkers, peace builders, explorers. She proposed something new, a secret joint program where humans and aliens could work together to study dangerous species. It's not to kill or cage them, but to learn to understand her own. People thought she was strange. Some called her a traitor, but others listened. And slowly, change began to grow. Back on Castor 9, Elias and the Dread Beast lived in peace. He built a small home from stone and wood, and each night they sat near the fire under the stars. Sometimes the beast would rest its head beside him like a dog. Sometimes they would walk the jungle together side by side. One night, Elias looked up at the sky and saw a light flash across the stars. Maybe it was a ship. Maybe it was just a comet. Their way, he smiled. She's out there, he whispered, telling the story. No. The dread beast gave a soft growl, low and warm.
Elias reached
out and scratched behind its ear. They were all afraid of you, he said, but they should have been afraid of me. The creature tilted its head. Not because I'm strong, Elias continued, but because I refuse to hate. I refuse to fear. He looked out at the jungle, the wild home that had become his heart. And deep inside, he knew something important. The galaxy would never be the same, because now it had seen that even the most feared creature could love, and even the most forgotten man could change everything.